So I came from the same background. I studied film a long time ago, and I went from television to journalism, and then I became a professor, and now I am the manager of a film program there. But I'm also an author of a few books on storytelling, and I'm going to talk about today about storytelling and AI. And I know I spoke to a student a few minutes ago, and she said, well, AI is going to revolutionize our profession. I'm a little bit afraid of AI. Can we still find a job? And I'm going to start with the good news. You can still find a job. And I'm going to tell you why you can still find a job and why storytelling is so important in that story. So if you have any questions, you can always interrupt. I know that's not in your nature, but for me it's okay. You can interrupt. If you have any questions, you can ask them afterwards, and you get, of course, the presentation. So enough about me. Let's start with a story. So as I was telling, everything starts with a story, and you all know how a story starts. So this is the typical scheme of a story. So you know your story starts, a lot of things happen, and then you have a climax and a crisis. But we live in a complex world. Today you have different entrances into a story. When I was young, television started at 6 o'clock in the evening. Now you can enter a story on WeChat, you can enter a story on Instagram, on television, and so on. So we tell stories in a different way. And we tell it in three ways, and I think it's important you know the difference between those three things. You have multimedia, cross-media, transmedia. So let's start with multimedia. Multimedia, how can I explain it the best? For example, you write an article for a newspaper, and then you copy the text as such without any alterations, without any changes, and you copy the text to website. That's multimedia. I just gave an example for text, but you can give an example for video, for animation, for whatever. A lot of people don't want to work multimedia because they say, well, it won't work on different platforms. And that's true. But the big advantage of working multimedia is that it is very cheap. You don't have to do anything. You only have to copy your story. The target group today is on different platforms. So if you want to reach your target group, you have to reach them on different platforms with different stories, with different media types in different formats. So multimedia is one of the ways to do it. It's cheap. The only disadvantage is that it probably won't work that good. If, for example, you make a video for 3 minutes for YouTube, or a South Korean version, you make a 3-minute video for YouTube, which is possible. If you put that video on TikTok or on WeChat, it won't work because it's too long. So that's a disadvantage of multimedia. So we tell stories multimedia, but we also tell them cross-media. What is cross-media? You make the story, it's the same story, but you adapt it to the platform. For example, the longer video, you make it shorter for TikTok or for WeChat, or also you change the tone of voice, which is very important. A video on LinkedIn has another tone of voice than a video on WeChat. The advantage of cross-media is that it probably will work better than multimedia because it's adapted to the platform. A disadvantage is that it costs more. You need a little bit more work to adapt your story. Another disadvantage is you have all the same content in different forms, but it's the same story on all those platforms. So why should I watch your video, your shorter video, if it's the same content, the same story as your longer video? And that's what we call transmedia. Transmedia is the newer way to tell stories today. And what is transmedia? Remember Star Wars. Do you know Tomorrowland? Tomorrowland, a very famous Belgian rock show all over the world. Disney, all those brands, Red Bull, and so on, they tell stories in a transmedia way. And what does that mean? Transmedia is you tell smaller stories of a bigger story, but all those stories are different. And you create a story journey. So it's more than one story, it's different stories on different platforms in different media types, video, audio, text, animation, combinations, all of them. So different stories on different platforms in different media, and also in different formats. Formats behind the scenes, unboxing, casting tapes, 5 quick questions too. Those are formats. And in order to do that, you need a story world. This is a story world from Disney from 1954. So transmedia storytelling is not new. It's not new. And what did they see? They saw in the film Mickey Mouse, you all know Mickey Mouse. In the film Mickey Mouse there was a dog, and via user testing they saw that the target group, the users, really liked that dog. And what did Disney do? Disney said, well, we're going to give the dog a separate story, Pluto. We're going to give the dog a separate story on a different platform, a comic book. That's transmedia storytelling. And this is what I call a story world or a script 2.0. You all know a script where you have the scene number, day or night, interior, exterior, and so on and so on. It's typical script scenario. But this is the next level, a story world. And in good transmedia storytelling, there is also public participation. How can your public, how can you be part of the story? For example, a BTS experience. I just went to in Seoul, the HCK ground or something, HIT ground, where you can do a K-pop experience in the center. That's user experience, that's public participation. Where is the public participation here? Disneyland. See? So as a film student, I think you still need to know how to tell a single story, which is very, very important, but you also need to know to make a story world. Because if you can't do that, you won't make the difference. With a single story alone, you won't make it anymore. And if you have that plan, if you have that story world, and a lot of people, like for example, if you're making a story for your final dissertation, for your final work, probably you already do transmedia storytelling, but most of the times a little bit too late. So, for example, there is an open house here in this institute, in this film school. There is an open house, and you think, well, I'm going to make an after movie, and then you film the after movie, you edit, and then at the end you said, oh, we should have done a behind the scenes movie also, and you missed that chance. And why did you miss that chance? Because you didn't make a story world beforehand. If you had made the story world, you could say, well, we're also going to do a green key setup where visitors from the open house can participate in a famous science fiction scene. One of the disadvantages of transmedia storytelling is it costs a lot. You need a lot of budget. And why is that? Because you have a lot of content blocks. You have a comic book, you have a feature movie, you have a theme park, and so on. And you have music, you have television, and so on. So it costs a lot. So how are you going to do that? Well, one of the things is, not the only thing, but one of the things to make that possible is AI. So we're living in a new normal. Next slide. Okay, and show it. Okay. You all like that, AI slop? Probably, and I can't predict the future, but probably in half a year you won't like that anymore. Why? Because you know it's not authentic, it's not real, and people like to have stories, and stories is always about emotion, finding emo, not Nemo, but finding emo. You're all the time on WeChat or whatever social media you're on here. With us it's Instagram, for example, and TikTok, a lot of TikTok in Belgium. But recent studies have shown that this AI slop may cause that social media is not growing anymore, that people are going away from social media and going back to, well, social media will always be there. Don't be afraid. WeChat will stay. But probably People will start reading books again, maybe, which is crazy, I know, and maybe go for a run and a podcast and so on. But AI, for me, this is art. So you have AI slop, but you can also make almost art with AI. This has features from retrofuturism, from disco, from the 70s, the music, the vibe and so on. So this is almost, for me, almost art. So you can make really good stuff with AI also. That's your task.
Niet de ideale combinatie om weer wakker te worden. Wel de ideale combinatie om weer wakker te worden. Eva en Dries. En goede muziek. Eva en Dries. Elke ochtend van 6 tot...
This was a clip fully made in AI. So if you like it or not, that's not the case. It doesn't matter if you like it or not, but it's fully in AI. So the future is already here. And for me, I'm a television director. AI also creates possibilities, because if I had an impossible shot in my mind, and 20 years ago I went to my producer, he would probably say, no, we don't have the budget for that. And my DOP, my director of photography, said, no, technically that's not possible. And now with AI, that's possible. But how are you going to steer? How are you going to prompt? You all know prompting. How are you going to treat and give instructions, which is wrong, to AI? So the next 10 minutes I'm going to talk the typical mistakes you make when you talk to AI. I'm not going to talk about this very long. You all know that, how AI models are trained. It's simple. You put a lot of data into it. For example, this is a cat, 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 and so on and so on. Thousands of cats, and in the end, the AI model can create a cat. But, and that's important what I'm going to tell now, it's always mediocre. Everybody knows the word mediocre. Mediocre means you have high level, you have low level, and in between. In between is mediocre. So if you are looking for a creative, new, original idea, AI can never do that. So we're living, next slide, we're living in the age of mediocre, and that's what I'm telling now. I think you all have still a future in the film business, in the television business, and so on. So you will find a job. Good. At least when you go past that mediocrity, if you are pleased with that mediocrity, if you are using AI as a replacer and not as a partner, then you won't find a job. So the first thing, you all know software, right? For example, Unreal, Nuke, Blender, right? Voilà, people are getting excited now. And which software are you using? Maya 3D, Maya, so all you all know Maya and so on. Well, that's a bit of a problem, because you don't treat AI as software. Software you use via instructions. So you create a node in Maya, and you say, well, in this node happens this and this and this, and then you have an asset, and so on and so on. That's how Maya works, that's how Avid works, and so on, editing software. And AI models are trained on patterns. And one of the things is that AI has no error mode. Maya has an error mode. If you do something wrong, it says wrong, you can't do that, and you won't get a result. With AI, you always get a result. Not a good one, but you always get a result. And this is something which I find very annoying when I do, for example, text to video, and I want to create a scene, and I say, well, I need a nature scene with a tree and a church, and he gives me that nature scene. And then I say, well, I don't like the blue sky, I want the sky a little bit more gray, and he will give it to me, but the church is gone. And then I say, put the church back in, and then at the next result, the tree is gone. So it's unpredictable. Next slide, you can't predict it. Yeah, and you have to challenge, and this is very interesting to me, you have to challenge the model. Instead of being annoyed and being frustrated, I sometimes take those errors or those strange results as an asset. So you have to treat it as a multi-dimensional card. You're almost like a navigator. You have to navigate through the AI model. And this is one thing I use a lot. Impossible combinations. So you get a result and I combine it with a totally different thing. And then I get a nice other result which I couldn't get. So that's totally different how software works. Software, you give an instruction and you go step by step. With AI, for example, this is a good trick to do, so try it. And this is an important one for you. In Belgium, junior profiles, which is your profile, are having it more difficult to get a job than senior profiles. People like me, very old people. And why is that? Especially the cultural knowledge. If you have to talk to an AI model, you have to give some references. For example, combine this style with the beginning of Andy Warhol is art. And that's why it's important that you know who Andy Warhol is, or that you know who Kubrick is as a film director, or Tarantino, and what the typical style of Quentin Tarantino is. So if you're taking some classes here, for example, in film history or whatever, and you think, well, I don't need that knowledge because there is AI and AI can do everything. No, it's not. You need that knowledge to make AI better, to go further than the mediocrity. So, yeah, I already talked about that. There was the no creative boundaries. So, I already mentioned this. See AI not as a replacer, but as a partner. I call it an assistive tool. I use AI all of the time. I just wrote a book on storytelling with AI. I wrote that book with AI, but not the full book. I wrote it in the middle, and then I started working at it and brought it further than the mediocrity. And hopefully, it's a good book. It's not in South Korea. Sorry. So you all know the hallucinations, yeah? And I'm going to show you a video, and pay attention, please. All right?
Zo, meneer Jansen. De materialen zijn steriel. We gaan nu beginnen. Doe uw mond maar rustig open.
Okay, what was wrong? Yeah, the card, which suddenly appears from. I made this video, I think 2 months ago with Hailu. Hailu is maybe you know it. It's in a text-to-video model. I think it's from China or South Korea, which is a rather good model. So the card. Anything else wrong? No. Okay, let's watch it again. Is that possible? Pay attention to this, please.
Zo, meneer Jansen. De materialen zijn steriel. We gaan nu beginnen. Doe uw mond maar rustig open.
So be critical, but be critical, absolute, but you must know that those AI models are getting better and better and better. 6 months ago, when you asked an AI model to give you a video, probably had 6 fingers. 6 fingers, and when they started walking, the leg grew. That has been solved. An AI model doesn't give you 6 fingers anymore. And probably in half a year, we live in another different world. Okay, deformations. See? This is a video, but look at the faces, you can't use that anymore. This is rubbish, this is bullshit. So this is why you still have a future, and you will still have a future 10 years from now. Alright? Okay, be specific and try to speak the language. And this is again, we talked about cultural knowledge, Andy Warhol, but you also must have film knowledge. You must know what a low angle is, what a burst perspective is, what a wide angle is, what is a shallow depth of field. All those things you learn in class, you have to take all that knowledge into your AI model. And that's the big difference with my son. He's 26, and he thinks he's an AI artist. He's not it. He's not. Because why? Because he doesn't know what all those terms are. You know them well. So that's the difference with my son and you as a film student. So, for example, this is a prompt, a small prompt, old man with a gun walking, which is the action, what happens. Then in a rainy forest, which is the arena, where it is. And then you can add some typical cinematic lingo, some typical cinematic languages. For example, shallow depth of field, where the background is out of focus, and it's a wide angle and it's a low angle. So a wide angle as a lens, and a low angle as a camera perspective. It's made with Minimax from Hailu, and this is the shot. Voilà. Shallow depth of field, low angle, wide angle, old man in a rainy forest walking with a gun. Okay? And this is becoming better and better. Use LLM is a large language model. For example, Claude, Gemini. What do you use, Tobai?
Grok.
Grok, that's also a possibility. ChatGPT. Those are all LLMs, a large language model. Use those models as a prompt helper. For example, I use Gemini a lot. Now, I used to use ChatGPT, I switched to Gemini, and now I'm also switching to Claude. So I use them, all three of them. And in Gemini, there is my profile. Well, there are a few profiles. There is a profile for me as a professor, as a writer, and as a baseball player, because I like baseball. I made, and I'm gonna, you get PowerPoint, of course. You all know probably a storytelling canvas where you write your character, your plot points, your crisis, your climax, what's the conflict, your inciting incident. That's a typical storytelling canvas. I made for my new book a storytelling AI canvas, where you say, well, what's the art direction for my prompts, for example. So try to incorporate also those things in your new kind of content building. So let's summarize a little bit. So I talked about the importance of a single story. I talked about transmedia storytelling, multimedia, cross-media, transmedia storytelling. And then I talked about how are you going to talk to AI. What I find very funny, and also younger people, they're always on their laptop, on their keyboards. I don't use my keyboard anymore. What I always do is talk to my laptop or talk to my smartphone. And why it's very important, especially if you want to use AI, because your prompts, the longer, the more specific, the better result. So that's why I'm also on Gemini, and I'm always talking. And while you are still typing, probably I have the longest stack and the most specific prompt ever. So try to do it a little bit more, try to become less shy and talk to your laptop, talk to your smartphone, so you can have longer prompts and better results. So we have, probably you will notice, so I'm going a little bit faster now, if that's okay. So you have a few photo models, Nano Banano. It's a photo model from Gemini. You have Flux next, you have Midjourney next, you have GPT image. It used to be Dolly 3. Dolly 3 is gone, it's GPT image. It's the image generates the photo model in GPT. Yeah, next. And stable diffusion. So those are all photo models. Okay? Now we're going to talk also fast and just give them the video models. You have Veo, which is one of the most powerful now, but probably tomorrow there is a new one and that will be better. You have, this is an example of Veo. Yeah.
Two adopted brothers face to face for the first time in forever. Tension thick enough to slice with a sharpened katana. But let's take a trip back in time before these two reunited. Both lived very different lives. But somehow they were drawn back together. Stop.
There are some faults. We're not there yet. But I think the result, this was all AI. The result is rather good. But do not underestimate the cost, and do not underestimate the time people need to use it to get this result. Sora is another one. Runway is a big video model. Pricing plans. So within AI, you have a few pricing plans. For free, Good. Good. Free. But most of the time it won't stay free. For example, CapCut. Who edits video on their smartphone? Nobody? Who edits video on their smartphone? With CapCut? Nobody? You should do that. Shame on you, eh? If I can do it, I'm 53, I'm very, 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 very old. You can do it, eh? I also edit video on my laptop, with Avid. I'm an Avid editor, sorry for that. I use Avid, alright? Sometimes Premiere, most of the time Avid, but you all use Maya, you all use Avid or Premiere or whatever, I don't care. But I use both of them. And I have the option. You don't, because you can't edit video on your smartphone. And I think if you want to make your future or your possibilities as big as possible, I think you should do the both of them. Because if you want video fast, you will never win for me. Because first of all, you have to start up your laptop, and I'm ready. When you're starting up Premiere, I'm already done with my video. I don't have a lot of friends or hobbies, but I do have a lot of apps. And if I can do it, remember, I'm old, very, 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 very old. If I can do it, you should do it. Voilà. But we were talking about pricing, so it's free. Then you have AI apps or story tools or whatever. You have to pay for example, per month or per year or a one-time fee. Topaz Labs. Does anybody know Topaz Labs? Topaz Labs is the best AI tool for video conversion. For example, if you want to make video from HD to 4K, Topaz Lab is the best AI tool. You have to pay for it. It's rather costly. So, free, you pay for it per month, and then the last pricing model is you buy credits. You buy credits, for example, you buy 300 credits, you start developing, and before you know it, your 300 credits are gone, and you have to buy new ones. I'm going to talk in a few minutes about specific AI tools. We discussed photo models, we discussed video models. Now I'm going to talk about suites. What do I mean with suites? Suites are tools which cover a lot of functions into one tool. So for example, CapCut. So with CapCut you can do image upscaler, you can video upscale, you have portrait generator, you have old photo restoration, you have color correction, you have adding color to an old photo, slow-mo movement perfection, and so on and so on. Another suite is Canva. And who knows Canva? Canva is also a suite. Well, it's not that important, but Canva can do a lot of things. That's a suite. Captions is another one. Descript. Descript is very good for podcasting. Then you have Adobe, which is also a suite with After Effects, with Photoshop, and within Photoshop you have Firefly, which is the AI functions of Photoshop. So Adobe is a big suite, a very important one. And now I'm going to talk about a few specific tools. I'm going to start with text to video generation. And we saw the video models, remember, VO and all those things. Those are the specific tools which use probably one of those models. So there is Kling, there is Luma, you have Pika, it's also rather important, and you have ILU, which I showed you a few minutes ago. And then, now I'm going into the specific tools. And I'm almost ready, don't panic. There is still some time for questions. And in the PowerPoint, there are a lot more slides. There are more than 300 slides, and it's filled with tools. You can use it as a database if you want to search for a tool. Who knows HeyGen? There is still some work, no problem. HeyGen is one of the most important tools worldwide, not only in Europe and America, but also in Asia. And it does avatar creation. So what you do, you choose an avatar, or I just put in a video from you. That's also a possibility. Or some photos from you. That's also a possibility. The HeyGen, the app, can clone you. Right? So he takes the photos and he can clone you. Right? I can put in a few examples of your voice and I can clone your voice. I'm going to give you an example how we use this in Belgium. I did a consultancy for a television production company, and they made a commercial for the Belgian army, with actors and everything. And they showed the video to the Belgian army, and they said, well, it's okay, it was a video in Dutch, but they said, well, we need it in French, but we forgot to say that. There were two options. The first option is a reshoot, which cost probably 25,000 euros, a lot of money to do the reshoot with actors and so on and so on. The other option was AI. What we did, we took the commercial we shot, edited, it was a beautiful commercial, they were really pleased with the result. We put it into ai시대, and the actor spoke fluently French, and the lip movement was perfect. We did a little bit of touch-up work in After Effects. So it's not only AI, the basis was ai시대, and then with a little bit of touch-up work in After Effects, and the Belgian army was pleased, and the cost was really, really low if you compare it to a full reshoot. So what I see with my students, they're all fond of suites. Why? Because you have one user interface, and it can do a lot, and you don't have to pay a lot, you have to pay one fee, and with that one fee you can use the suite. But why would you use, for example, not CapCut or Adobe, but another tool? Because that specific tool is better in that specific part. For example, TopazLab, I already mentioned it. CapCut does video conversion from HD to 4K. TopazLab does it way better. Who uses Notebook? 2, 3, okay. What is Notebook? It's from Google. I use it. I like to read, but I also like to run. Right? And I can't combine it. You can't run and read at the same time. What do? I put all my boring papers, things I want to know about, I put it into Notebook, and I get automatically a podcast. Yeah, in different languages, not only in English. So you can listen to the paper, or listen to a script, a film script, as a podcast. Very interesting. Try to use it. Yeah, some video tools, going a little bit faster. Who knows Gaussian splatting? No? I will show you an example. Yeah, run the video.
We know good food. We know which recipes will become family heirlooms. We know which restaurants will become institutions. We know which meals will become your favorite memories. And we know how you can really impress your future in-laws.
Well,
we know good food.
That's Matrix style, right? So you used to have a big setup with a lot of cameras. Right? Now you can even do it with your smartphone. With this app, Bodycam, right? You just take your phone, and you scan the room, and then you can put your virtual camera into the room wherever you want. We use also that as a pre-production tool, a pre-visualization of your room. As a director, for example, or if you want to make a 3D room in Maya, you can use Bodycam as a first tryout. Opus clip, maybe not that relevant for you, just show the clip. Yeah. What does it do? You put in a long video, and you get different aspect ratios, it's 16 by 9, 9:16, square, and so on. But it also does automatic editing. So it will try to detect the highlights of a video and try to put it in the right order. And that's really in the AI part of it. This is, we used to know how to prompt with text. For example, top view of a girl lying in a field of flowers, and then you just start drawing. So it's animation to video. So you all know how to draw. Now you're drawing as a prompt. That's clear. Who knows 11 Labs? Okay, that's good. 11 Labs is the best audio tool. It's a Swiss Army knife. There are some voices into it, of course, but you can also direct the voices. For example, you can let them whisper, you can get them angry. And if you want to clean up audio, this is the best tool on the internet. It's a suite for audio. Right? It's only audio, but it's a suite. A lot of tools with audio. And then the last one for today, and then I'm finished. Who knows Suno? That's how I follow. Phew. Suno is text to song. Text to song. Which is really nice. And I want to end with this one, because this explains how I think about transmedia, thinking about transmedia storytelling. Remember the story worlds from Disney? When you're brainstorming, when you're thinking about ideas, probably you will think, well, one of my ideas is I have a story, but I also want to make a song about my story and put that on social media. But then you think, well, making a song is very expensive. I need a singer, I need a studio, I need a songwriter. I can't do that. So this is where the AI tool Suno comes in. And that's the key thing I want to give you today. If you don't know the tool Suno, you will probably not incorporate it into your transmedia thinking. So never start, which is a big problem for my students in Belgium, never start with your tool. Your tool is, and I'm exaggerating, but I want to make a point, your tool is your necessary evil. Always start with your story, then make a story world, and then, maybe then you go to a very logical way to the right tool. And maybe that's Maya, that could be the right tool, or a combination of tools. But you must know the AI tools. If you don't know Suno, you will probably never think about making a song, which is a problem because my students do, and they will take your job. The last thing was not true. Okay. So hopefully you understand what I mean with transmedia storytelling and how I look at AI. I think there is a bright future for your students. If you go beyond mediocrity, if you keep in touch with AI, please use AI and see the boundaries and make original ideas, and then you will stand out of the crowd. If you don't do that, then probably your future is a threat. But I'm sure you will all go beyond mediocrity.